I wonder if you could share a bit from your vantage point how race plays out in the possibility of awakening consciousness in our society.
Mm-hmm. Very, I love the way you frame that as an offering, that this could be a gateway for us, maybe um, uh, seeing ourselves and coming together, uh, shifting the narrative, again, looking at it from the inside out, which is what I think the practice supports us in developing a bit more intimacy with the distress often associated with race and racism. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's a way that we are in this society, as long as this topic has been, you know, generationally um, recycled.
Mm.
Um, it still is something that can take our breath away. For many of us, take our lives away. Um, you know, there's still something about this topic that makes our skin crawl.
Mm-hmm.
That is unfinished. The ancestors are not happy. You know what's unfinished is reborn. You know, so there's just something that's not attended to around this that we may not see in our lifetime. But one of the things I'm trying to encourage is that we can use this practice to begin to investigate our conditioning so that we can change our relationship to this stimuli or to this numbness that some of us have.
Mm-hmm.
So my prayer is that we get educated around our conditioning at a very personal level. Sometimes when it comes to race and racism, people are often running to do what needs to be fixed in our social arena, and that doesn't need to stop. But there's another piece of work that I think is crucial, and that's the work of looking at how you've been conditioned to see yourself not just as a racial individual, but as also a part of a racial identity group. So, like it or not, in our society, we're all members of racial identity groups.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us know that, and some of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us, a lot of white people, for example, relate to race as I'm a good individual. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people of color tend to relate to race as I'm a part of a racial collective that is um, oppressed in this society.
Mm-hmm.
So when we come into the conversations, we come in at different levels of intensity or awareness. White people enter as I'm a good individual. People of color enter as I'm a part of a group that's suffering, and we miss each other. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some very basic constellations that we can begin to see where we get tripped up repeatedly because we bring different levels of awareness to the table. All racial groups are not created equal. We know this, but we live as though we're not connected to it. There are, when we look at the group identities, not just individual identities, white folks are in a dominating uh, place in society that means something collectively. But
Mm-hmm.
many white people don't identify with being a part of a white group. They
Mm-hmm.
identify as good individuals. This trips us up. People of color um, uh, are what we share in common is being a part of an oppressed group. That
Mm-hmm.
means something. There's a dance that happens between dominant and subordinated racial group identities that we can begin to recognize.
Mm-hmm.
And the patterning of harm, the patterning of ignorance, the patterning of duality and missing that we belong to each other. So
Mm-hmm.
part of what I'm doing in the book is bringing an awareness of how mindfulness can support us in staying engaged enough with the patterning that's happened, so that we don't flee the premises, so that we don't run away and distract ourselves or go into fits of rage or project out. Um, there's a piece of that. It's the disturbance part within us that I'm interested. It's like the Vedana. I want us to kind of back up enough to get into the literal basic feeling tone that freaks us out right there when it's happening, that we haven't paused with and loved enough so that we can stay in the conversation without going into our habitual response. And
Mhm.
that's my prayer. That's what I want us to be able to tolerate
Mm.
the discomfort so that we can transmute the habitual pattern at a collective level. And we can't do that as I've found that the practice helps me do that more and more.